time, but I think we can make this work just fine. So I'm excited about today. I think we're going to have a great day. I'm wondering if we could quickly do introductions just so that we know each other, because we will be spending parts or all of 3 different days together. So it'd be good kind of to get to know each other. I'm wondering, Ogden Preparatory Academy, would you guys like to each tell who you are so that we become familiar with you, and then we'll go over to Jackling Elementary.
Tammy Walker.
Oh, we can't hear you, Cami. I think. So you need your mic on, but everyone else needs to have their mic off and their sound muted.
I was muted, so.
Oh, gotcha.
Now you should be able to hear me.
Yeah, great.
I am the coach here at Ogden Prep for Science. And today I'll also be acting as administrator and maybe ELD person, as she has not gotten here yet. So I sent her a note. She's not on the list of being out. So hopefully she's just running late and not other problem. And we do have our 2 5th grade teachers here, and we will take copious notes so we can be ready and fill in the people that are not here for next time. Go ahead, Cameron. Yes. Whenever you talk, unmute. And
I'm Cameron Daly. You have to turn your volume down. Sorry, we're all in the same room, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. I'm Cameron Daly. I teach 5th grade here at Ogden Preparatory Academy, and I'm excited to add anything I can to my toolbox. So I love this.
I'm glad you're here, Cameron. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Roma Seha. I'm a 5th grade teacher here at Ogden Prep Academy as well, and really excited to be part of this team and just kind of learn as I go. Thank you so much.
And you said your name is Rome?
Just like Rome, Italy.
Fabulous. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Well, thank you, Ogden Preparatory Academy. This will be a great team. Okay, let's go to Jackling. Will you guys introduce yourself?
Okay, I think we're unmuted. I'm Kara Baldry. I am the instructional coach here. Really excited for this.
My name is James Ballup. I'm the technology coach here. Brett Bodden, I'm the principal.
I'm Megan Black, and I'm the tank specialist. Shania Marchant, 4th grade teacher.
Sorry, tell me time.
Me?
Yes.
Shania Marchant, 4th grade teacher.
Hi, Shania.
Hello.
And I'm Dave Woodhead, 5th grade teacher.
We can see your arm, so welcome.
That's my best part.
So we are glad that everyone's here. I'm going to share my screen so that we can get going, and then I'm going to put the PowerPoint presentation into the chat so that everyone can access it, because there are links in the PowerPoint. So good morning. Welcome to Doing and Talking Science and Engineering. Today we're going to focus on engineering for this half of day, and then we'll talk about days 2 and day 3 when we get to our agenda. So what I'm wondering is if you can quickly access the form. This is just the sign-in roll so that my office assistant knows who is here. The substitute reimbursement form she was supposed to have attached today, but she has gotten very sick with COVID. And so we're all kind of quarantined at home. So things are, you know, how everything's up in the air and we make it work. So as soon as I have the reimbursement information for the substitutes for today, I will email that to everyone so that you know exactly how to take care of that. So are people able to access the Google form? So show me a thumbs up if you can access the Google form. Fabulous. Okay, my friends, how are we coming with filling out that form? Do we need more time?
Yes, Melissa, we had a little technology problem, so we need just a minute, please.
If it's, I mean, if there's a technology problem with that form, it's fine. I can let the office assistant know who is here.
Just show it. We need it. Just say, yeah. Just
Yeah,
say-
we're good now. Thank you.
Okay. If something happens, just email me and I'll make sure that Kira gets accurate attendance. That way she can make sure that everyone here gets credit in Midas for attending, and also for the teachers, it's to help as part of their stipend. Okay, my friends, so we've had introductions. I'm Melissa Mendenhall, and I'm the elementary science and STEM specialist for the State Board of Education. I've been in my position for almost 3 years. Prior to that, I was elementary science specialist for Alpine School District. And prior to that, I was a clinical faculty associate for Brigham Young University, helping with their intern and student teachers. And prior to that, I taught 5th and 6th grade. And actually, I loved teaching 5th and 6th grade. I think that was my favorite. Those are great grades. So welcome. I'm excited to have teams of teachers and specialists and administrators. I think for change to happen, we really all have to be on the same page. So hopefully this will help us all be on the same page. Okay. So the structure of our 3-day professional learning. So today we're really going to focus on what is engineering design and how do I include it in instruction? We're going to look at where the possibilities for language supports within engineering design in a specific model that we could use to implement engineering design. So that'll be kind of what we do today. On day 2, when we're here, we're going to look more specifically at a language acquisition strategy and think, how can I include this into science and the engineering that we now know about? And then day 3, we're going to use this with students that we have. So that's to kind of see how does this work with our students. So hopefully we kind of cover all of the bases and try it out, and then you can use it in your classroom and share it with others. So just so that the teachers are clear on what the stipend is for, and you should have signed the paperwork for it already, I believe. When I checked, it looked like Kira had taken care of that for all of the teachers. So the reason you're receiving the stipend is because it is a little bit of extra work, as far as you need to select 5 ESL or multilingual learners. And really we're looking at maybe WIDA levels 3, 4, if possible. 2s would work, but probably 3, 4s. We're really looking at thinking about how do we get them off of that plateau and moving forward in academic language. If you don't have that many ESL students, we could also look at students who are struggling with language arts, with literacy, and we could include them. So you need to select those students and then get permission from their parents to actually do this event with you for day 3. And day 3 is on March 22nd, and it'll go from 9 to 2 with a lunch break. Also, from those 5 parents, permission to be videotaped, because the whole thing is recorded. The state office wanted it recorded to have as a record. They're really concerned about how can we help all students access instruction. And so this is one of the strategies that we're looking at. Also, the other thing is you'll be working with your teams, especially on after day 2, a little bit on today on day 1, to think about how do we make these ideas work with our students when they are here on day 3. So there will be a little bit of work that you'll be doing with your team and maybe your students. Okay, so again,
Melissa,
yes?
can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
We are wondering, will we have the students in with us all day on day 3, or will there just be specific hours that they will be with us?
They will be with you the whole day.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
We'll be spending the morning looking at kind of science and engineering separately, and then the whole afternoon we'll be putting them together integrated. So
Awesome. Thanks so
you'll
much.
have them the
Appreciate
whole
it.
day.
Just trying to plan space, so that works great.
That makes complete sense. So who will be there on day 3? Well, your team that's here today, plus your students. So everyone's there the full day. And our purpose is that we're actually going to enact engineering and science instruction that supports language acquisition. So we talked about the date was March 22nd for that 3rd day, and the times from 9 to 2 for the whole team. So you'll want a room for the students to be in. You're going to be splitting into 2 teams on that day. So you'll have, each teacher will have their students on a team. So it may be easier to be in 2 separate rooms with your students and then split the rest of your team to support. Or you can be all in together, and then when you need to break into the smaller groups, you'll just maybe move to different sides of the room. So you decide what works best for you. Okay, so day 1 today, what is engineering design and how do I include it into instruction? So the purpose is to gain an understanding of the engineering design core, disciplinary core ideas, and to experience a strategy for implementing that supports language acquisition. So that's what we'll be working on today. So our learning intentions, just so that we're very clear, is to become familiar with the 3 engineering disciplinary core ideas found in the framework, and you can access the framework from this link. And to explore design thinking as an instructional strategy that can help us implement these 3 disciplinary core ideas. That doesn't mean it's the only one or that there's a set way to do it, but this is a way that really has a lot of language acquisition possibilities built into it. So it's a good one to be aware of. And then we're going to actually live engineering design, not integrated with science today on its own, because I think it's important for us to understand the engineering disciplinary core ideas and what they entail and what they might look like. Then we can think, okay, so how does this work with science? And we'll integrate them together. Okay, so the success criteria, how you'll know you're successful today is actually if you can identify the 3 engineering disciplinary core ideas, if you actually explore the design thinking instructional model, thinking about how can I embed language into it, and then live the engineering design. So that's what we'll kind of be expecting today. And there will be a Qualtrics survey at the end that asks you, were you able to meet these success criteria, and how did that work for you? All right, so our group norms, pretty easy. It's kind of challenging on Zoom to be present. It's tempting to do emails, grade papers. I know, because I live it pretty much daily. So our norms today are going to be present and really actively listen. So try to think, why is that person saying what they're saying? How can that inform me and my understanding? And then to really be asset minded or look for strength. So where do I find strengths in my team? Where do I find strengths in these ideas? How will that help me in my instruction? Okay, so you should have the link to the Google Slides. I took to each of your sites a container with all of the supplies that you'll need for the 3 days. There was a stack of papers, handouts, so find the ones that had day 1. I mean, all of these you can find electronically, but sometimes it's just easier to have a hard copy. So it's up to you if you want to use the hard copy that I provided or the links within the slides. So you have 2 ways to access your handouts today. So I'm just wondering if someone can show me for day 1, what handouts do you have, just so that I make sure that you have the appropriate ones. Okay, so you've got the engineering your morning routine. There should also be another one for redesigning the backpack. Is there another one that has those for day 1? Yep, that's right, Cami, she's found it. Perfect. And then I believe there are a couple of handouts that you can fill in. So do you have some others that look like graphic organizers? Yes, perfect. That's one, and there should be maybe is there a little packet that says day 1? Like I say, if there's not, it's not a big deal. We can access these all electronically. Oh, I can see a packet right there. Rome has the packet. Turn it around so that everyone can see, yep, that packet. And then it should have within it different, there's a color page and there's another graphic organizer. Perfect. Okay, those are the ones for today. So if you have those, you should be set. Again, not to worry. You can access them electronically through the links as well. So either way will work. Other supplies you'll want to maybe have access to, especially on day 3, is large chart paper and markers. You'll need that for day 3, so just be aware. But today you'll need pencils or pens to fill out those, or if you want to do it electronically, you will. A computer for each teacher and some projecting capability, which you all have because you're here. So that works. Okay, so our agenda for today. First, we're going to look at what are the disciplinary core ideas to make sure we're familiar with them and understand the components or the kind of the critical features of them. Then we'll look at design thinking as an instructional strategy. We'll take a quick break and then live a design challenge that uses the disciplinary core ideas in a design thinking type instructional setup. And then think about, so what does this mean for teachers and students? Where are the language acquisition pieces that we can really enhance to help our students? Okay, so engineering design disciplinary core ideas. So in the framework for K-12 science education that I gave you the link to, or this book that's free online, there's in chapter 8, there's a chapter on engineering design, and it goes through the 3 engineering design core ideas. And so there's a box 8.2, and it tells what these core ideas are. So look at them for just a minute. There's ETS 1A, ETS 1B, ETS 1C, and it says these are the 3 core ideas for engineering design. So take just a minute and look at those. Okay, will you unmute or put in the chat, what are some things that you're wondering about these 3 disciplinary core ideas? So either unmute and say it out loud, or you can put it in the chat if that works better. What are you wondering about these 3 core ideas? Wondering if we should integrate the problems with the science DCI. Ultimately, yes, that's a great question. So that's a really good question. Our science standards are integrated, so yes, we will want to integrate. However, they also are their own standalone disciplinary core ideas, so we kind of need to know what they mean. So really good question. I think the answer is we should integrate them, but I think also there are possibilities where maybe we shouldn't, just so our students understand the nature of engineering. So good question. What does delimiting mean? Oh, we're going to look into that. Wondering about time factors so that we can ensure teachers will do this. That is something we need to consider because engineering does take a little bit more time to do. However, we also know that students are really engaged and gain deeper understanding. So I think, how do we balance those ideas? That is something we need to consider. Good things to wonder. Okay, we're going to look more deeply at these 3 core ideas. So within your team, you need to assign evenly people either A, B, or C. So you may have 1 person on A, 2 on B, 2 on C, if you have 5 on your team, but kind of split it so that they're as evenly covered as possible. So you have 15 seconds to decide who's an A, who's a B, and who's a C. Okay, are we good? Show me thumbs up if everyone knows what they are, an A, B, or C. Jacqueline, are you guys, is your team okay? You ready to go? Fabulous. Okay, so here's what we're going to do to learn more about these disciplinary core ideas. So you're going to read your DCI, which you can access. I'm going to come out of share whole screen for a minute. So from that link, you should be able to access chapter 8, which we talked about. And on page 202, nope, sorry, 203 is the box that had the 3 core ideas. Now, if you are an A, you're going to look at ETS 1A that starts on page 204, defining and delimiting an engineering problem, and you will read these couple of paragraphs about it and then get a sense, what does this look like in the different grade bands? Okay, then you can see on page 206, we have ETS 1B. So there's our second one, developing possible solutions. You'll read the information about it and the grade band endpoints. Whoever edited this book and formatted it, I don't know what they were thinking, because the third one, ETS 1C, we just have the heading at the very bottom of page 208, and all of the information starts on 209. I don't know why they didn't just push it to the next page. So you'll read that and the endpoints. So that looks like A's, your pages are 204 to 206, B 206 to 208, and C 208 to 210. You will be filling out, you can link to it here, or you should have a hard copy of it, your section for what are the major components of this disciplinary core idea? What do teachers need to know for yours? You're going to have about 5-6 minutes to do that. Then we are going to go to breakout rooms. So this is where it gets a little tricky, why everyone needs a computer, because you're going to go to a breakout room. Breakout room 1 will be for all of the A's. So there'll be at least one from Ogden Preparatory Academy, one from Jackling. You'll talk together and decide, did we have the same list? What's really important? B's will talk together, C's will talk together. So a jigsaw type of a situation. So you'll have about 7 minutes to do that. So we'll read independently, fill out our graphic organizer with what are the important ideas, at which time I'll open up breakout rooms and say, okay, go to your breakout room. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. You'll talk with a partner who read the same thing as you did to come to consensus on important ideas. Do we have any questions on our task at hand? Okay, let's take, it's 9:01. Let's take until 9:06 to do your first part independently and get your graphic organizer filled out from what you've read independently, all right? Please let me know if you have any questions or problems. We'll come back at about 9:06, 9:07. Hey, my friends, you might not quite be finished. That's okay. If you're finished, great. Some of the pieces are a little bit longer than others. If you're not quite finished, that's okay. You'll have some time to discuss it in your breakout rooms. So this is where it might be just a little bit challenging for a minute. I'll open the breakout rooms, and it does get challenging with all the different noise. So, if you can spread out a little bit, that's helpful. If not, do the best you can. We'll only be in this breakout room for 7 minutes, all right? 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms. Remember, A select 1, B select 2, C select 3, and it's 9:07. I'll check in with you, see how you're doing, and we'll probably come back about 9:13. Okay, so I'm opening up the breakout rooms. Does anyone have any questions? All right, I'll open the breakout rooms and you should be able to join. If you need any help moving, I'd be happy to move you to a room as well. Just let me know and I can move you. Rome, would you like me to move you?
That would be,
Melissa, can you move Cami to room 3? I keep pushing on it and it doesn't go.
yeah, if you could move me.
Yes, I will. I'll move you to room 3.
Yeah, I see Megan's there. I keep pushing room 3, but nada happens.
If you could move me to,
What would you
Okay.
like me to assign you to? Hey, Rome, would you like me to click a number for you to join?
so, okay. Am I in room,
What room would you like to go to?
room 2?
Okay. Okay, my friends, that's it's kind of challenging to try and collaborate using technology sometimes. Thank you for being willing to do that. I hope you enjoyed getting to know another person that's in this experience with you and had a good conversation. We're able to kind of deepen your thinking about one of the disciplinary core ideas. Now you'll just be with your team, so it should be a lot easier. Well, so we did that. So now you're going to, with your team, each member of the team will share, this is what we learned about our disciplinary core idea. So if you are an A, you'll share, and while you do that, B and C will fill out the information on A, so that every one of the core ideas, we have a chance to look at it more deeply and talk about it as a team. So let's take about 7 minutes to do that. So you'll have about 2 minutes for each person to share what the core idea was about. If 2 of you did it, you can share that time between the 2 of you, so that we become experts on all 3 of the core ideas. So thinking about what you and your team member just shared about that core idea, what were the big ideas? Those are what I'm going to share with my team. So what questions do you have about our next task? Are we good to go? Okay, so it is 9:20. So we'll try to be done at 9:27. So if you like to talk, monitor your airtime. Hit the high points, people. All right, so in your teams, go ahead and share the 3 ideas so we can all be experts on them. Okay, my friends, kind of finish up your thoughts and let's come back together. Did all three have a chance to share within your group? Okay, I see a thumbs up from Jacqueline. Cool. And how about Ogden Preparatory?
We're good.
Everyone had here? Fabulous. Okay, so let's think about this all together, just so that we make sure we've hit all of the main ideas, because what you read is from the framework for K-12 science education. That's what our standards were built from. So these are the expectations, or help us understand the expectations for engineering design. So this is a pretty critical piece for us to understand. So let's look at defining and delimiting. What are some of the major features or components in this disciplinary core idea?
Well, so I think at the beginning, we need to set our boundaries, which really what is delimiting, and define what the criteria is and what the constraints are.
So we need to delimit, or say these are the boundaries that this problem falls within. Good. And then you said criterion constraints?
Yes.
And what are criterion constraints? Because there's a lot of confusion about those two ideas.
I don't want to answer everything. But you're good.
You're just fine. Jacqueline can also unmute someone who share. Oh, I can see Megan.
That's me. That was, no, I think that was me that did that. That's me somehow. Okay.
So everyone at Jacqueline, if one person turns on their microphone, everyone else has to mute and turn off your volume. You'll be just fine and we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay. I was saying actually, like when it really comes down to trying to design and think about engineering problems and like what am I going to have my class do, sometimes I have a hard time distinguishing between criteria and constraints. And I know that it's important, but they sometimes seem like they go back and forth as far as like you could say something like cost. Cost is a criteria because we want it to be cost effective so people would buy it, but it's also a constraint. So I guess I think of them as like limitations, but I also recognize that when you're evaluating your design solution at the end, you're optimizing it, you really want to be able to identify which criteria your solution met. But I do have a hard time really when you're actually, not just the definition, but when I'm really thinking about this is what I'm going to present to students, how do I distinguish between those criteria and those of what the design needs to meet and the constraints?
I think that's a really good point, Megan, and I think sometimes the lines do get blurry and a little bit gray. And it's easy to say these are the definitions of the two, but it does get a little bit more challenging to identify them. So when we think of criteria, we really want to think of what does success look like? You know, so what is my outcome? What does success look like? That's really where we want to kind of focus criteria. Constraints are really just the limitations. What's inherent in this problem? I only have this amount of time. I only have X amount of dollars. I only have these, supplies. So those are just givens. This is what I have to work within. But criteria, how will I know if I've been successful? What are the outcomes, going to look like? And again, like Megan said, they do kind of blur at times, but I think that might be helpful in helping us distinguish between the two. Anything else that's important to know about this idea of defining and delimiting? So delimiting really is your criteria and your constraints. We're setting kind of the boundaries. What does success look like? What are just the limits? I only have this much money. So that's the limit. Is there anything else in this disciplinary core idea that we need to really think about?
I do think it's impossible. I do think it's important that we look at defining what the problem is as well here in that first step. And then defining your limitations. But we have to understand that engineering focuses on solving problems. So there has to be a problem to solve, or there is no engineering design process or core ideas. Does that make sense?
I think that's a really important idea to note. We need to really clearly be able to say in a statement, this is the problem here. And once we know the problem, then we really think about, so what are my boundaries? So I like that idea that you're saying, Tammy. I think that's a very valid one. Okay, let's look at the second disciplinary core idea. Oh, the sun just came over my hill. Hang on. The beauties of, technology. Never know when the sun's going to come over the hill. So let's look at our second disciplinary core idea, this idea of developing possible solutions. What did you guys find out about it? What were kind of the important features?
You're not, no. Go ahead.
Helping students understand the model is really important of what they're learning, and also just kind of help them through the investigation process, with them kind of learning by making mistakes and failing and just kind of seeing the different ways, and kind of with the whole criterion constraint, like what kind of, that's part of the investigation.
So we need to be careful that we're not saying there's one right answer. You need to get it this way. But this idea of how are they sorting things out? Good, I think that's critical. What else is important about this idea?
Melissa, one thing I found is our kids want to jump directly into the model. And it's important when they're developing possible solutions that first they are making a plan. I use the analogy of a blueprint before you build a house with my students. And so that they have to talk about possible solutions and work them out as a paper model or some kind of a schematic before they jump into designing a model.
Great, great. You bring up some important points. One, we as a teacher need to not go into a design with the idea of there's only one correct answer. We need to have some kind of a problem that could have many possible solutions. And we need to help students as they're looking at it, not just say, oh, this is what I'm going to do, without really brainstorming many possible options to then think through kind of what Rome was saying too. What are the criterion constraints? How do I sort through that? And then there is this idea of, okay, once we're kind of at that stage, let's maybe do a rough prototype or model, something that's rapid and quick, that we're not invested in a lot, so we can kind of start thinking about, well, which model, which one of these might work better. So I think those are all important ideas to think about. Good. But really a major thing that I think you'll come across is what you've already talked about. Both as teachers and as students, we want to jump to just, well, here's my one answer, without really thinking about all the possibilities. Okay, let's look at C, this idea of optimizing the design solution. What did you guys discover as you explored that disciplinary core idea? And if you want to put it in the chat, you can do that too, but
I was saying like, well, the aim of engineering is to design the best solution, but oftentimes like our best solution is going to be dependent on what trade-offs we made with the criteria. So I think for me, a big takeaway on this was just how important it is to have clear criteria so that as students are optimizing their design solution, they're actually able to articulate and think through this idea of, well, if we do this, it will optimize and make this us meet this criteria better, but we might not meet this criteria as well. So being able to make trade-offs and understand that as you're developing the best solution, you actually are having to make some decisions.
that's really important, Megan. This idea that, probably one solution isn't going to hit everything. So how am I going to kind of prioritize my criteria to say, so which ones are like non-negotiable? They've got to hit these. So that knocks out these ideas and maybe moves these others up to the top. Now thinking about my limitations, what's the possibilities within my limitations? There's a lot of trade-offs. So really good point. Kara also says, also with developing solutions, it's important that we allow time for students to modify their solution to optimize the outcome. That's another really important feature, Kara, thank you, that we don't just necessarily stop at, okay, so here's the solution I picked, but we need to at times allow them to actually maybe build that prototype. It might be in a rapid form, and that's okay. Test it out or test out features of it to say, now what happened? Where do I need to maybe make some revisions to modify? And really, when we get up through 6th grade, that's really the expectation of the disciplinary core ideas, is that they get through that stage, that they can actually identify, these are the modifications I should make based off of the testing that I've tried. And that can look a lot of different ways, but really good thoughts about this idea of making, identifying modifications. Okay, my friends, I think we are coming to a pretty good solid understanding of the 3 disciplinary core ideas that we have. So we're going to now look at an instructional model that might help us to use these 3 disciplinary core ideas, which are the focus, not the model, and also provide opportunities where we can embed language. So we're going to look at, it's called design thinking. It comes out of Stanford. And it's really a very human-centered approach to engineering design. You have this colored copy in your packet. I see Shanya's got hers, is open to that page. So it really has kind of 5 steps. That doesn't mean that you have to just go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. You can bounce back between them. Remember, it's not about implementing the strategy. It's how can I use a strategy to support an understanding of the disciplinary core ideas and my objectives for language acquisition. So that's why we might select a strategy to use for this instructional strategy. So engineering design is not the strategy. The strategy is a way to support the engineering disciplinary core ideas and any other objectives I may have. So this is a tool that we can put in our toolkit. I think Cameron was talking about, he wanted a tool. This is a tool. Okay, so we're going to look at Stanford's design school design thinking process, and it has 5 different modes, they call them. So take just a minute, look through these different modes, and then put in the chat what you're noticing or what you're wondering based off of looking at these modes. Okay, I see from Ogden Preparatory that we've got this idea that I noticed that the thinking process has conceptual ideas, which we want our students to gain, but we often lack the tools to teach. Really insightful thought about this. Any other wonderings or insights that you have? Does anyone want to unmute and share? Okay, my friends, let's look at these a little bit more closely. So, Jacqueline, you're going to be responsible for the empathize and define modes. And Ogden Preparatory Academy, you're going to be responsible for the ideate, prototype, and test modes. So you're going to have time to read about your modes, and the link is right here. When you open it, it comes to what's called the Bootleg Boot Camp. I don't know why Stanford named it that. Maybe we'll see it at some point. I've actually found this document to be really helpful. So if you scroll down, it gives you some of the mindsets, which are interesting, but then you'll get to the modes. So if you are Jacqueline, you'll see empathize, you'll read about the mode, what that looks like in this instructional tool. So that's page 1. Page 2 is define, same thing for that. Then Ogden Preparatory Academy, you'll have ideate, prototype, and test to go through as a team. You also have a link to this handout, but you should have it in your packet so that you can just write, or if you want an electronic copy, to fill in the ideas about what is this mode about. So you should have that hard copy. So you're going to, as a team, read about your modes that you're assigned, note the important features, and then as a team, prepare a short 2-minute presentation about your modes. Now, if you want to do that in a PowerPoint, I can allow, I'll share the screen so that you can share your screen, or if you just want to talk about it. But somehow everyone in your team needs to be involved in the presentation. All right. So what questions do you have about this task? Show me a thumbs up if you're clear and you're good to go. Oh, Kara's team's good to go. Ogden Preparatory Academy, you guys okay? All right, let's take 15 minutes to get all this ready. I'll check in with you. Let's take 14. It's 9:46. Let's go to 10 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, let's be ready to share out. If you have a little bit of extra time, you can start your break early, because after we share, we're going to take a break. But you can take a slight break, but everyone be back at 10 o'clock. All right? Okay, you have until 10 o'clock to be ready with your presentation. Okay, my friends, let's come back together for 1 minute. Are we okay to do our presentations? Did you have enough time to get them ready?
OPA is good.
Okay, great. How about Jacqueline?
I think if I share my screen.
I think we can do it.
We'll see.
Thanks.
No, I'm just executing.
All right, my friends, let's start then with Jacqueline. Does someone want to share their screen, or are you just talking it through? What can I do to support you?
I can share my screen.
Okay, Megan,
Did not.
there you go. I'm there, it's sharing.
Okay,
Oh,
So-
that one.
I guess we talked about, the emphasize phase is really trying to understand the problem, like through your end user's lens. So kind of getting a new perspective on the problem, and that in order to, I think, really come up with innovative solutions, you need to understand what are your, who are you designing for? What are their needs? What is important to them? And this kind of gives you the background that you're going to need to be able to develop and truly understand kind of develop a problem statement. Before you do that, you need to understand who you're designing for. Great. Okay. And so then the second one we didn't get as much of a chance to discuss, but this defining phase, you've got to kind of unpack your empathy findings into kind of what are the needs that people have and any insights you got from talking to your end users. And then that can lead you to focus your problem and develop an actionable problem statement, which they called in the text your point of view. And some things from your point of view that I can jump in. This will help you focus and frame the problem. You'll be able to use this statement as a reference for evaluating competing ideas. This helps a solid point of view statement, helps you brainstorm and helps guide the innovation process.
Wonderful. Anyone else from Jacqueline want to add anything?
We did work together to choose the images for our slideshow.
We've had a good discussion here.
Yeah, we had a good discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So I think what Megan brought out was really this important idea of it's about the client, it's about the user, and how are we really making sure that we understand what are their needs? What will success look like to them? What are the limitations for them? They may understand what their needs are and what success might look like. They might not. And that's where you, as an engineer, need to really dig deep and try to figure out from an objective standpoint, what is going to work for this? You know, what are they trying to tell me? Maybe it's not even verbally, maybe it's through how they're looking or how they're acting. So how can I really try to think about this from their perspective? I love the glasses that Jacqueline showed. So we're looking through their lenses. That's what we want to try to figure out, is how can we see the problem through their eyes? So good job, Jacqueline. All right, here we go for OPA. It's your turn.
Is it unmuted?
Yeah, you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Just talk really loud.
Okay.
So yeah, I was covering the ideate portion of this, and a couple of things that stood out to me. The flaring rather than focus, starting with all of the possible solutions and then slowly kind of narrowing them down. But one thing that I was thinking about, how easy it is to get hyper-focused almost, where you start excluding things as solutions that maybe you shouldn't have excluded quite so quickly. It's almost like when you start hearing people talking about, oh, we need a fresh set of eyes, fresh set of eyes. Why do you need a fresh set of eyes? And I think most of the time when people say that, it's because they find themselves in this position where they have focused it so much that they can't break free of that. So they need more people to come in to bring back the flare portion and try to avoid the focus part. Also, flexibility. It talked a lot about flexibility. And like Cami was saying earlier, I don't know if it was in one of our private conversations here or if it was to the group, but she mentioned how important compromise is. And when you're working in that group setting, the word flexible, I feel like, is synonymous with compromise in this situation, where you have to be able to be flexible and make some concessions as you're discussing those possible solutions. So to you, Mr. Seha.
All right. So with prototypes, basically he talks about what it is basically getting those ideas out of our heads and putting them into the physical world. And we can do that using notes. We can do that using activities, role playing. There's different ways of doing that. And why we do it is for test functionality, empathy gaining, exploration, excuse me. Also inspiring kids, having that conversation, like what we had talked about earlier, kids, learning about like, oh, this worked, this didn't work, and just kind of, it's a building process. Good.
Awesome. Okay, and I just noticed, perhaps an engineering design process, that this is screening backwards. Sorry.
It's frontwards on mine.
Is it frontwards when it goes in? Okay, good. On the big screen, it's better. Okay, that makes me happy. All right, so the final check, it's really not the final because this is a circular problem, is to communicate with your client. Ask them if the prototype is working. Ask them what they like about it. What is working, what isn't. Communication is a really strong point. After that, then you want to test so that you can determine what doesn't work. Sometimes I've even heard the phrase test to failure, so that you see how much of the constraints they can handle before it does collapse. I mean, you don't want to drive across a bridge that hasn't been tested to failure. And then you want to look at making those changes, and you want to do it at this point. You don't want to go back to the ideate. You want to look at what you have, look at what worked, keep that, and try to optimize your solutions in a, what they call like a rapid way, as quick as possible, making those compromises and those changes and those tests so that you can best meet the needs of the client. Because the whole end game of the test is to decide what revisions you need to use, how you can amend that prototype so you can address the problems, and then work within the criteria and constraints that were set up at the very beginning of the process. And make your client happy ultimately and make a lot of money. Retire at 38. And that's it. Thank you.
No, that was very good. It does really come down to this idea of it's not about you as the designer, it's about the client. And I don't know too many engineering firms that stay in business if they don't really consider, how can I, really help the client be happy with this and feel like this works for them. So that's a hard thing for our students to do. They're really pretty me-centric. So how can we help them get out of that? Whether they're working in their team and thinking about compromises or considering the needs of the client, doesn't really matter what their needs are, what they think about the problem space. It really does matter. How can we support the best solution for our client and help them to be happy? We want to make money. They got to be happy. So thank you for sharing that. So I think you're starting to see how many opportunities for language to be used within this specific instructional activity. Just before we take break, I want to look at this idea of the connection, because remember, engineering design isn't the strategy. The strategy helps us to implement the 3 core ideas. So we're choosing the strategy for specific purposes. So we need to really think about, if we're looking at the first core idea, defining and delimiting the engineering problem, which one of these modes is going to help us do that?
We think empathize and define.
Okay, so on here, they're saying that to define, the empathize and define really helps us gain the information we need to define the problem and to determine the criterion constraints. Are we good with that? Okay, so empathize. Okay, let's look at our second disciplinary core idea, the developing possible solutions. Which one or ones of these modes help us to get at that core idea?
We think ideate and prototype. Let's check.
Okay, so the idea of ideate, and there could be some of the prototype. Okay, how about our last one then, this idea of optimizing the design solution? Which mode or modes are going to help us get to that?
We think both prototype and test would optimize the design solution the best.
So we can see there's a little bit of overlap there, which we actually saw in those 2. I think you saw some overlap when we looked at those 2 core ideas, this idea of developing possible solutions, and then so that flare, and then we've got to narrow it to consider our criterion constraints, was kind of at the end of developing possible solutions, and maybe at the beginning of optimizing, where we're kind of selecting. So I think we are seeing prototype in both of those. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to actually live engineering design, thinking about our disciplinary core ideas and how this strategy might help us to implement them. So we're going to, it's 10:13. Let's come back at 10:25. By the time you come back, please have your engineering supplies somewhere laid out where people can access them. So from the bin, have a place that could be a little bit tricky. Maybe it's a table out in the hall where people can go and access supplies. All right. Enjoy your break. You guys are awesome. And we'll come back and enjoy engineering. Okay, my friends, let's come back together. That was a quick break, but hopefully it gave you a chance to get up and move around for a minute. Oh, I'm seeing people. That's great. So, just a couple of quick things as we get going on the second half of our morning. I did get a hold of my office assistant, and the substitute reimbursement instructions are in this link in your Google folder. So there are instructions to give to your office assistant for each of the days. Realize that you've got to turn in that invoice within 30 days. USB has a policy now that if it goes beyond that, the finance does a fit and doesn't want to pay it. So just make sure that you give the information to your secretary or office assistant so that that person can get the invoice submitted for subs. All right. So that link should be taken care of. Also, I want to thank both of your teams for being here. There were more teams that had signed up, and then as difficulties arose with substitutes or with schools shutting down, they canceled. So thank you, because this is not easy for you, and I realize that. So thank you for being here. Also, I realized that it would be better in person, but I didn't want to cancel for a second year in a row. So we're trying to make technology work the best we can, which you understand being in the classroom, how that goes. So I appreciate your patience and your willingness to work with the parameters we have so we can actually do this. Because like I say, I didn't want to cancel again. So thank you for being here. And then I need to apologize. I thought I was sharing my screen after our groups shared. I don't think I was. So anyway, when we talked about where the different modes for the design thinking fit in with, whoops, we've got to come down one more, fit in with the engineering design core concepts. We have this idea of defining and delimiting the engineering problem. We find that in empathize and define in the design thinking instructional strategy. For developing possible solutions, we find that in ideate and some in prototype. And then for optimizing, we find some of that in prototype and some in testing. So this is just a strategy to help us help our students understand those disciplinary core ideas. And how we use that will really help them make that connection. So we are going to live a design challenge. And within this design challenge, I'm going to show you where the DCIs are embedded in the different modes. And then afterwards, we're going to really think about that from an instructional standpoint. So this is going to be really quick. You would not run through this as quickly as we are with your students, but you're adult learners. You can do things more quickly. And also we have a limited time together this morning. So just realize it's going to feel quick and rushed going through this a little bit. And you would not do it this quickly with your students. So, but as your adult learners, I think we'll be okay. So you should have two different packets. I would be holding them if my office wasn't locked and the packets inside. So you should have two options. You can either choose the morning routine or the redesigning a backpack. The morning routine looks at designing for a process, which is something we designed for. The backpack looks at designing for a product. So I want you to think about what's more clearly kind of an issue for you. Something to contain things. Yes. Cami, did you have a question?
Sorry,
No.
I just asked my team to choose. I didn't know I wasn't muted. I
Oh.
apologize.
Oh, no, you're just fine. I just thought maybe there was a question. So something to maybe kind of contain things as you move from school to home. So a backpack or some kind of a container, or is it the morning routine more of an issue in your life right now? So what you do from the time you get up to the time you step foot at work, is that more of an issue in your life right now? So you have 5 seconds to decide what problem space is most a problem space for you. So your 5 seconds starts now. Go. Okay, that's 5 seconds. So just so that I can kind of split you up, who chose the morning routine? So from OPA, did anyone choose the morning routine?
No, we all chose the backpack.
Okay. And from Jacqueline, did anyone choose the morning routine? So 4. Do you have anyone there that chose the backpack? No? So you have 4 people working on a design challenge right now? 4 people there?
Yes, we have somebody that had to step out really quick, but yeah, we can do morning.
So, well, you picked morning routine. That's what everyone there picked. Okay,
Yeah.
so perfect. Typically, engineers work in teams and collaborate. However, I found with students, when we start with that and helping them learn the engineering design, disciplinary core ideas, sometimes the rigor load is high and we have behavioral and chaos issues in the classroom. So we are going to try it today, just since this is our first experience, as you are your own design team. And that would probably be how I would start it with students, to introduce this to them. And then once they kind of understand what engineering design is like, then you can start putting them with other students as a design team. But we have to remember to scaffold all the little pieces. And if we throw everything at them all at once, it can be a little overwhelming for them. The cognitive load can be a little too high. So we're going to do this right now as if you're your own design team. So for Jacqueline, you need to pair up. So Megan might be with Kara, and so then Megan would be the design team designing for Kara, and Kara would be the design team designing for Megan. Does that make sense? So you go each way. So decide quickly at Jacqueline who you're going to pair with. And then at OPA, the 3 of you will talk about, you'll just be a design team, and you'll have, so Cameron will be the design team, and maybe you're going to have to kind of pair up. So if we're looking at Rome, then Cameron and Cami, you'll have to work together to design for Rome. So you're going to have to do things maybe even a little bit faster, because there'll be 2 of you. You'll have to do it 3 ways. Does that make sense? So that everyone has a chance to be a designer and a designee. Okay, so since we have, let's see, 4 doing the morning routine, I'm going to pick the morning routine. However, the steps are the same. We've just changed the problem context. So use whatever packet you'll be using. I'm just going to select the morning routine as the packet I show you, but realize you have pages that look identical except for the problem space. Okay, what questions do we have right now before we start? We good? Hey, it's gonna go fast, so hold on to your seats because we're gonna move. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is this idea of defining and delimiting the problem. So we're going to think about empathizing. So how we're going to do that is you already have your partners. So one's the design team, the other's the client, and then you reverse. In the three, you're going to have two do one and then trade off 3 ways. Okay, you're going to interview your client and you want to know the good, the bad, the ugly about this problem space. So if it's a morning routine, what do you like about your morning routine right now? What don't you like? What's the most frustrating thing about your routine? How do you like to organize your routine? What's, if you had a dream, what might it look like? The same thing for the backpack. If you were designing for the backpack, you know, what really works for you in a backpack? What are you looking for? What's the most frustrating thing about what you're currently using to move your materials back and forth between home and school? Okay, so you want to try to find out as much as you can. We are only going to have about 4 minutes. So OPA, you guys are going to have to really fly, but try to get as much information as possible, because I had someone tell me once, better information, better data makes for better decisions. So get as much information as you can in this interview. Okay, so decide who's going to be the design team first. You'll be asking the questions. You'll have about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and then we'll trade and go the other way. OPA, you guys are going to have to go a little bit faster. Okay, so any questions about this stage? All right. The first design team, your time starts now. Go. Okay, you should be changing to the other person to interview now. Opa, how are you coming along? As you had 3 different interviews to do, are you okay? All right, my friends, let's come back. Hey. Hopefully you took good notes about your client, because this is about starting to see, like Megan's team at Jacqueline showed, trying to see through your client's eyes what their problem space is. So we really want to know their problem. Okay, so we want to take a minute and really think about this. So if you're OPA, you're going to have have 2 things running side by side because you're designing for 2 different people, right? So really think about in your interviews for your client or clients, what did you find out about their problem or their experience? What really stood out to you about that? And what are you curious about? So overall, this is my big inference. These are the big insights I had. Oh, this is really what the issue is, or oh, we need to maybe consider this. All right. So you're gonna have 2 minutes. So this is independent think time to really think about the interview you just conducted in light of your client. Okay, so your time starts now. Okay, my friends, that's kind of quick timing, but would anyone like to share what is an insight that stood out to you from thinking about the interview? Did any of you have an insight from thinking about the interview, like, oh, this is maybe an issue for my client. This is something I want to consider. Well, let's see. Cameron said, I learned that the same problems Rome has with his backpack are also things that bug me. That's interesting because I think a lot of engineers find that when they design for a specific person, that also meets the needs of many other people. But it's really good to have a person in mind that we can really interview and think about, and then it will meet the needs of others. Really good observation, Cameron. Okay, so let's move on. We're still in defining and delimiting the problem, or in this empathize mode, but we're going to think about our client's needs. So I want you to, in just one sentence, say, this is the problem. So you're gonna have to think about, based off of the insights, what's the problem for this client? And then what are their wishes and what are their concerns? And what conditions might help this client have a positive outcome with either the process or the product? Okay, so you have a couple of minutes to think through that. And something OPA may want to do is just now pick one person. So Cameron may want to just focus on Rome, and Rome may want to focus on, so that you're only having to do this one time now. That might work for you guys at this point. Okay, so let's take 2 minutes to really think about defining, and we're starting to delimit our problem. Your time starts now. Okay, friends, let's come back together. At Jackling, it looks like we have our fifth person back. That fifth person may want to join Kara and be part of her design team, I'm thinking. So I'll let you guys sort it out, but that might be something to do. Okay, so we've really kind of started to coalesce these ideas of what's the problem, what are some wishes my client has, what are some concerns my client has, what would make a positive outcome. Now we're getting to this idea that Megan talked about from her team with this point of view statement. In that, we're going to really clearly try to look at this problem situation through our client's eyes. So we're going to think about my problem. So if I was designing for Kara, I would say Kara needs a way to, and what's my big insight? What do they need a way to do? And they need this because of this reason. So here we're kind of thinking about this idea of, what are we seeing in our client's interview that tells us, oh, here's the problem, and this is why it's a problem. So let me give you some examples. So down here of this point of view or needs statement. So Anna, so the client's Anna, what does Anna need? She needs a way to quickly get through the cafeteria line. Well, why? The insight that we came up with through the interview is she likes to get as much recess time as possible. So now let's look at Alexa. And this is a real one from a real situation. So our client Alexa, she needs a way to provide a healthy, calm breakfast. So that's her need. And what was the insight? Why? Because her mornings are chaotic. So I'm just seeing her household and it's like, everyone's everywhere. So she needs a way to have a healthy, calm breakfast for her children. Why? Because, well, her household is chaotic in the morning. And then there's Jackson. So Jackson, the client, what does he need a way to do? So he needs a way to eat healthy lunches. Well, why? Why is, what's the insight? Why would he need that? Well, because he's really tired when he gets home from basketball practice and doesn't really have time for a healthy dinner. So he needs a really good lunch, a solid lunch that'll give him the energy. Okay, so I want you now to look back at your past page about thinking through what your client needs, and even the page before that, the insights you have, and fill out these ideas. Your client's name, that should be easy, I hope. What's the real problem here? Why do you know that's a problem? What insights do you have from what you've thought about and talked to them about? Okay, so we're not going to spend very much time. You have about 97 seconds to fill in your point of view statement. So your time starts now. Go. Okay, my friends. Now, right here is where a lot of times our students tend to move ahead, skip past the idea of our disciplinary core idea of many possible solutions, and they just go, well, I'm just going to solve it right here. So I want you to look at what you've written and see if it could be solved many possible ways, such as in this, Anna needs a way to quickly get through the cafeteria line. It doesn't say Anna needs a way for her teacher to put her at the front of the line, so the teacher's going to do this so that she's always first. So we haven't solved the solution. We've just said, here's the space that we're looking at. How can we quickly get her through the cafeteria line? We haven't said this is how we're going to solve it and given our one answer. And like for Alexa, Alexa needs a way to provide a healthy, calm breakfast. It doesn't say Alexa needs a way to have oatmeal on her table at 8:05, because then we've kind of already said this is what we're going to do. So you want to look at, again, through what you've written, does it leave space for there to be many possible solutions to come out of it to meet this outcome? So take 30 seconds and look at yours and make sure that it could have many possible solutions that you could design to. Okay, my friends, would anyone be brave and be willing to share what they wrote? I know it's kind of hard when we're in a small group, but is anyone brave and would share their statement?
All right, I'll share mine. You're not sure. Megan needs a way to get ready faster in the morning because she is rushed.
Does that leave us a problem space where there could be many solutions for her problem?
Yes, I think so.
Great. Very good job. Thank you so much for sharing. That's an excellent example. So we kind of know what her problem is and we know why it's a problem, because she's rushed. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. Will you just copy what you wrote here in an easier form to write, and then you're going to share with your client, this is what I wrote. Does this accurately describe your situation? If not, revise. Remember, it's not about you. So if you need to revise, revise. That's what good design firms do. So you have just 1 minute each way to say, this is the statement that I see. This is what I think you need a way to do. And this is the insight I'm seeing. And see if they see it the same way. If not, let's come to consensus, okay? All right, 1 minute each way. Opa, you're gonna have to really cruise. So time starts now. Okay, my friends, show me thumbs up if you're done and ready to move on. Okay, good. Did anyone revise anything in their statement? And if you did, okay. Sometimes you've listened really carefully and sometimes you just need to make a little tweak. The important thing is that you're really listening to your client. That's what's important. Okay, so we have in the last step that we did and in this next, and in the next step we're going to take, we're really looking at this idea of defining the problem. So we've looked at the problem space through our client's eyes. Now we're really trying to set it down firmly on paper so that we have something to go off of when we think about designing. So we are going to really make that crystal clear now by saying, based off of that interview and our problem statement that we wrote, so how will we know if our solution is successful? So that's what we want to do and write our criteria. And then based off of that, what are our constraints? So maybe there's a time constraint. Maybe there's a size constraint. Maybe there's a materials constraint. Well, you know there's a materials constraint because that's what's on the table is what you get. So we're going to take just a minute now and really think, how will I know this is successful? What am I going to judge it by? You know, what did the client say? And what are my limitations? So what questions do you have about this? Any questions? Okay, let's take 2 minutes to write down our criteria constraints. Remember, they're different for each client. So none of us should have the same criteria constraints. Okay, let's take about 14 seconds to finish up. Okay, my friends, remember our criterion constraints are based off of what we learned about our client, right? They're really context specific. So I'm wondering, would somebody be willing to share, these are the criteria for my client, for my situation. Who would share their criteria?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. This is wrong. So for me, the criteria is that my client needs more space and the zipper is jamming. So that's kind of like what I guess, yeah. Would that wouldn't be the constraint. That would be more the criteria.
So you have to provide more space and
Yeah.
a zipper that works.
Yeah, so my criteria is I have to provide more space and figure out how the zipper won't be jamming anymore.
Perfect. So you need a situation where there's not a jamming zipper and more space.
Uh-huh.
Great. Would anyone like to share their constraints? So for your situation, what constraints did you find for your client?
You're still unmuted. I can just, so he wants the bottom of his backpack to be stronger and fewer moving parts. There's too many straps and buckles hanging off of the backpack. So I put in some constraints as financial, of course, which tends to be a constraint in a lot of these situations, but also a reasonable durability of the material. Like you can't have a backpack that lasts 200 years, right? So if that can't be the goal, it's got to be reasonable. And is solving these problems going to create new ones? Like if we reinforce the bottom and then something else breaks on it because I don't know if that counts as a constraint or not, but yeah.
So a limitation is the materials.
Okay.
So we need to think about what materials do we have? Are these materials going to help us meet this idea of durability?
Okay.
So I like that. That's good thinking. Cool. So look carefully at your criterion constraints one more time and think, is this something that's going to help me determine success for my client, that they'll be happy with it? Is it something that's just a limitation, something that's there that I have no control over? So limitations you really don't have control over. I have these materials, I have this time, so think about what I can control, what I can't control, and that might help you a little bit as you're thinking about criteria and constraints. So let's take just 30 minutes, not 30 minutes, we don't need that much kind of time, 31 seconds to just re-look over. I love what was shared, really great ideas, and make sure that yours match up kind of to the criteria and constraints ideas. Okay, friends, really, we have done what to me, I think, is some of the hardest work in engineering. This idea of really defining our problem and then delimiting our problem by saying, what are the criteria and constraints? That's challenging. And that's going to take some scaffolding for our students to understand, just as it takes some scaffolding for us to understand. But that's a really challenging piece. Now, I think this next part is kind of, to me, where the creativity and the fun comes in. So now we've gone narrow. Now we're going to flare back out. So you're going to have, we're only going to do 2 minutes. You're going to have 2 minutes to brainstorm as many different possible ways you could solve this as that you can. And realize with technology, sometimes these solutions haven't been invented yet. So you might have to think out of the box. That's okay. No idea is too wild. Go for quantity. So if you come up with just one idea, that's not what we're looking for. So really stretch yourself. Anything that you can think of that might help solve this problem, get it down on paper, whether it's realistic or not at this point, okay? All right, so you have 2 minutes. We're going to see who can be the ideation champion and have the most ideas. Your time starts now. Go. Okay, time's up. All right, everyone stand up. So you gotta all stand up. Count how many ideas you have. When I call out the number of ideas you have, so like if I say 1, if everyone has 1, you stay standing. If I say 2 and you only have 1, then you have to sit down, okay? So we'll see who our ideation champion is. Who's the most creative of us today? All right, I'm not even gonna say 1 because if you have 1, I don't wanna know. So let's go to 2. Hopefully everyone's still standing. 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it looks like we have 1 person standing. Is that Cammie?
I am.
Woohoo! How many ideas did you come up with?
I have 10.
Woo! Everyone give her a round of applause. Woo! Way to go, Cammie. She's our ideation champion. All right. Thanks for working hard, my friends, and really thinking out of the box. So we've gone wide. Now we're going to narrow it back in again. So what you're going to do is look back at your problem statement. So my client needs a way to do this because of this. And you're also going to revisit your criterion constraints, thinking about the problem statement and the criterion constraints. Looking through your possible solutions, you're going to star the top 3 that could help you meet those. Hang on just a second. Then from those top 3, you need to decide, am I going to combine those together? Am I going to use just one of them? Or am I going to use 2 of the 3? So then once you've starred your top 3, then circle with the stars if I'm going to do all 3 of these together in one process or product, or 2 of them, or just 1 of them. So circle your final outcome. Okay, you have 98 seconds. Go. Okay, show me thumbs up if you've selected what you're going to do. Okay, fabulous. And so we've talked about this idea now of developing possible solutions. We looked at ideating menu and then narrowing it down to where are we going to focus. So that's this idea of ideate has really helped us with this developing possible solutions core idea. Okay, so let's look at the idea of optimizing our design solution, or this rapid prototype idea. When we're doing this, we don't want students to do this one really big, elaborate prototype. We want it quick and we want it dirty so that they're not afraid to change something. So each time we build a prototype, it will become more sophisticated. But our first models, which is a prototype is a model, we just want to be rapid, quick and dirty. So this actually does happen in real life. My husband is administrator for a freestanding surgical center in Salt Lake City. He has 4 ORs that run all the time. And he had surgeons come to him when there was first this, well, you can see it down at the bottom right-hand corner, kind of this gun, suction gun. And they said, we want that. And so he looked into it, and what happened is during surgery, there was this issue, and this is a little gory, but it's medical field. As surgeons are doing surgery, there's a lot of bodily fluids going all over. just as you can imagine at the dentist's office when they're trying to clean your teeth. They were trying to put sutures in, but they couldn't see the sutures because the fluids were getting in the way. The blood and things were covering their area. So they needed something to suction that out so that they could see to put their sutures in. So the first prototype that came out looked like the one in the bottom right-hand corner. And so, you know, they had talked to them and it needed to fit the hand really nice. They needed to have kind of a trigger. It needed to have a point so that they could get, you know, really close to where they wanted to be. So it had all these features. So they went and showed them first this idea of, they put, and this is the actual first prototype, a dry erase marker, a film canister, and a clip, and said, we're seeing it kind of like this. So how do we need to tweak this? And then they fine-tuned it to look more, well, more pointed, more ergonomic for our hand. So that was the engineering company's very first design. So when students say, well, this isn't real, this is what engineers really do as they get started. They do a quick and dirty prototype that they can get feedback on to then do a better iteration when they make their second prototype. Okay, so you are going to do a rapid prototype for your client, but you are only going to have 12 minutes. So you can add another limitation to your limitations. It is time. You have 12 minutes. You can use any of the supplies there on your table, or if there's something you could grab quickly from your room. So thinking about what you circled, how, you know, you have 12 minutes to make a rapid prototype for something your client can interact with. Now, if you're doing the morning routine, this is challenging because it's a process. So how can I lay this out, something that my client can interact with and think about? So that's going to be a little bit more challenging than if you're doing like a backpack, but you still need something for your client to interact with. So think about, how can I design that for them to be able to interact with it in the morning process? Okay, so your 12 minutes starts now. It's 11:16. You have until 11:28. Go. Okay, this is your 4-minute warning, my friends. You have 4 minutes to be done. Okay, 2-minute warning. Okay, about 33 seconds to finish up. Okay, my friends, you may not quite be finished, but I think you have enough now that you can share and get some feedback. Just kind of an aside. Did you like the size of the paper bags? When you order online, I've learned you have to be really careful to check the dimensions. Didn't realize I was buying paper bags for hamsters. I don't know how you fit, how those are called lunch bags. I don't know what type of lunch you would fit in those bags. So anyway, if you use that for your backpack or your carrying container, I am so sorry that they were tiny. I pictured them bigger when I ordered them. Okay, so my friends, it is really, really important for your client now to interact with this prototype and for you to give feedback. So what we're going to do is you're going to have 1.5 minutes each way to share, this is the prototype, and let the client interact with it and give you feedback. Oh, this, I really like this because of this. I'm wondering if we adjusted this, if it might better do this. So it's, you know, And this we need to scaffold our students in. Well, that sucks. No, we don't want to say that. These are the positive qualities. These are the things that could be challenging. And I'm wondering if we change it to this, if it might work a little better. Okay. So you have a minute and a half each way to share the prototype, really listen to the feedback, watch the body language of your client so that you can really think, how can I best meet their needs? Because it's not about you. So don't get defensive. Well, I did that because it doesn't matter. Does it work for your client? That's what we're looking for. Okay. So we have 3 minutes. It's 11:30. So 11:33 will come back a minute and a half each way. Go. Okay, 30 more seconds. Okay, my friends, let's come back together. Now, I want you to take a minute of individual think time. So go to your page that says client feedback. And I want you to really write down what feedback did you get, both positive and things that could maybe be improved. And then think about, so what is one modification I could do that would really improve this product or this process to better meet the needs of my client? Okay, so write down your feedback and then think about what's one modification you could make to better meet the needs of your client. Okay, let's take 87 seconds, go. Okay, let's come back together. Would anyone like to share what's one modification that you would make to your design and tell why you would do that? Who's brave?
Okay, you're unmuted.
So we were designing this backpack and we had a couple of problems we were trying to address. One of them was the excess material being used for straps that just kind of got in the way. And then how quickly the bottom would wear out. So initially I just said, we'll just repurpose the straps or have an option to where you can unhook the straps and string them along the bottom of the backpack to reinforce it. And then as I was talking to Mr. Seha, we decided that 3 wasn't enough, and to really get the reinforcement you would need to have them pretty much either overlapping or right next to each other to reinforce that bottom. So I have 3 here, but I just need to add a few more straps to that modification I'm going to make.
Fabulous. Thank you for sharing. That's a great modification. You really listen to your client, and that's important. So way to go. Thank you for sharing. To finish the story on the suction for surgery, the surgeons came to my husband and said, we want to buy this first generation of suction. And he said, how about we wait? I'm betting after they try it out and get client feedback, things will change. So let's wait for the second generation. Well, he was wise, because what they found as they started using this is the suction was really strong and it was pulling out the sutures that they were putting in. So they decided, well, we need to have a valve to control the strength of the suction. So they put in this valve to, control, increase and decrease the suction. And then my husband said, okay, I think now we're ready to buy it for our operating suites. And it's been working really well. So I like what Stanford says. They don't say you fail, they say you failed forward. I learned something that's really valuable so that my next iteration is even better. And so that's, I think, an important mindset for our students in engineering, is to realize it's about learning to meet your clients' needs. So we went through this really fast. Like I say, you wouldn't do it this fast with students, but I think you get the idea of seeing how we focused on the disciplinary core ideas, how we used the instructional strategy just supported students in actually doing the disciplinary core ideas. So what you just did with the feedback we were optimizing the design solution, and this is how we tested it for our clients, was through an interview and showing them. All right, so when we think about this, the 3 engineering design disciplinary core ideas and this instructional strategy, I'm going to give you just like 5.5 minutes in your teams to really think about these 2 questions, because this is kind of what we're trying to come to. So what parts of the design thinking instructional strategy supported students knowing and understanding the disciplinary core ideas for engineering, because that's important. And what parts of the of this process using this strategy can we really focus on language? I think you'll see this strategy overall is rich in language and student discourse. So where can we really focus on that? So in your teams, spend 5 minutes and 30 seconds talking about these 2 ideas, and then we'll come back and share. So be prepared to share. So we'll come back at 11:45 and 30 seconds. Okay, my friends, kind of finish up your thought and let's come back together. Thank you. I see Opa ready to go. Okay, and it looks like we have Jacqueline ready to go. I'm wondering if we can have each team kind of share what were the big ideas that you talked about in relationship to these two questions. Let's start with Jacqueline. What did you guys discuss?
Well, I mean, we're kind of talking about like the opportunities for students to talk with each other, but also like helping them use academic language as well. And then how does that piece sort of fit into this process? So maybe our conversation wasn't as much about answering these questions as kind of having more questions about how this would look in the classroom, and then also we're thinking about using this design process with the state standards. How does this fit when your engineering problems may be more focused on applying a science concept that they learn?
Wonderful. Those questions are where we're going in days 2 and 3. Great questions to have. That's right where we're heading. So great. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Opa, what did you talk about in your discussion?
We talked about a couple of things. One of them is how each step of the engineering disciplinary core ideas is important. So I can't leave off one. I can't say, oh, I'm going to skip over for time, possible solutions. I'll just give them a solution and we'll go. Each one builds upon the other one and also helps generate more thought, more discussion, and more critical thinking. We also talked about how, yes, there's engineering disciplinary core ideas, but the exciting thing is that these can integrate with the disciplinary core ideas in some of our science content. For example, we're 5th grade teachers, I'm with 5th grade, and property of matter, they own, 2nd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, property of matter is it. And how exciting to be able to redesign backpacks looking at the things that about the physical and even chemical properties. We got kind of out there thinking, what could you do with chemical properties of matter and how much more of a learning process that is. And every single step provided opportunities for the language acquisition process. But one thing that we did notice, sentence framing is like ELD 101, but how powerful that the model that Stanford University has provided has that scaffolding already integrated, because it does provide opportunities to lower that effective filter and still be able to plug in and have discourse with your partners, even if you're an emerging learner.
Very good ideas, very important insights. Thank you for sharing. I think that you've hit on some important topics. I want to, before where we're going for days 2 and 3 to address Jacqueline's questions, I want you to just take a second and read. So this is from the Framework for K-12 Science Education. So I want you to think about this text, realizing that engineering is embedded in science in our standards and in that framework. How does what you're reading in this text and what you experienced today relate? So be prepared to share out. Okay, my friends, so how did what we did today and this text, how do they relate? What are you noticing or thinking? So Brett put, I think it's really important that throughout the process, teachers are using all 4 WIDA domains of reading, writing, speaking, and listening at different stages. That is critical. Really good thinking, Brett. What else are you noticing or thinking about the relationship between the text and what we did?
I was gonna say, it kind of is interesting that these are life skills is even more so than just engineering skills. These are skills that they can use in any domain.
I think that's critical. These are life skills that will help them in their life. Good thinking. Something that really stood out to me is this idea of equity. How are we scaffolding it so that, oh, it looks like Cammie just barely put that in. This idea of how are we scaffolding engineering so that everyone can access it and make it equitable for all of our students. So that was something that I thought about. And I think the design thinking is a strategy that can help make engineering more equitable for our students. So looking quickly at our learning intentions today, they were to become familiar with the 3 disciplinary core ideas and to explore an instructional strategy to implement these ideas that has opportunities for language acquisition. And you identified where those opportunities were and even showed some that were already embedded in there. And then to actually live a challenge that used the disciplinary core ideas and the strategy. So those were our intentions for today. Hang on, I want to come to here and then we'll come back. So our success criteria is, can you identify the engineering disciplinary core ideas? Do you know, did you actually explore design thinking and think about where there were opportunities for language acquisition and then live the process? So where we're going in days 2 and 3. So day 2, we look at science and where, what instructional strategies we have for it and where we can embed language. The second half of the day, we then come up with a language acquisition strategy. And this is one from WIDA that will help us to actually, when we have those opportunities in engineering and science, to actually embed language acquisition opportunities. Then the last thing we'll do is look at what we're going to do on day 3. And day 3, our students are going to live a shortened backpack experience like you did today. They're going to live the science that you're going to live on day 2 in the morning. And then their whole afternoon is going to be a large integrated design challenge where you're going to embed language acquisition that we'll talk about on day 2. To do this with your students in an integrated way, I'm talking at 12:30 with 4 scientists who are going to come that will be the clients for each of your sets of 5 students. So there will be actual scientists from from UVU that will be zooming in to spend time with your teams. Day 2, you will need the handouts with the Post-its on that said day 2, and there's some colored squares that took me a long time to cut out. It's been a while since I've done that. You'll need those. And then on day 3, you will need the backpack packets for all of your students. You'll also need the other engineering design, it's stability in an ecosystem. You'll need that packet for all your students, and those copies are provided. There are some other handouts in there that say day 3, so just have those ready. You'll need to reuse the paper squares, so put them back after day 2 for day 3, and you'll need these supplies for the backpack portion and then for the integrated science and engineering where we look at the sustainable ecosystems. All right, so that gives you a look at day 2 and 3 and how to have your supplies ready. So as we finish up today, I just want to thank you again. Thank you for taking the time to do this. I know this is a challenging time, but I'm hopeful that through this, you'll come away with tools and better understanding that you can make science and engineering equitable for all of your students. So there's a feedback. If you would just take that in the last 4 minutes, and then our next time that we're together is a full day on February 22nd from 8:30 to 3:30. Are there any questions that anyone has for me as we finish up? Okay, my friends, I really, really appreciate you. Thank you for your hard work today. Please fill out the survey. That's how I get the money to be able to pay you and pay for subs. So fill out the survey. And then I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and know that I'm thinking about you during this challenging time. So thank you very much. I appreciate you. I'll stay on for a minute in case anyone has any questions.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.